Hours, days, weeks, months, 6 months. That's a lot of time for just 10 minutes of art. That's insane. I mean, who does that?
We do.
We do.
Here at Lab, our Jewish Student Association hosts a Holocaust assembly every other year. I asked the JSA if they'd be open to our electronic music ensemble performing. I thought we could make a different contribution, something unique using technology, since that's what the group is all about. They said they thought that'd be great. I started brainstorming ideas. At the time, I really just thought I'd compose something like I'd done so many times before. That was before I met Ali Mobs. It's a process known as sound design. Ali was doing a workshop on it where we went out into the city and recorded any sounds we wanted. Traffic, crunching a plastic bottle, stepping on leaves, tapping a metal gate, literally anything. Before the workshop with Ali, I was already thinking about the piece I was writing. But then I thought, what if every instrument sound you heard came from field recordings captured from actual artifacts of the Holocaust? The Illinois Holocaust Museum is up the road from Chicago. In the collaboration, I worked closely with their collections manager, Emily Mooney. There were thousands of pieces in their archive. I wanted to try and find as much diversity of materials as I could. Wooden artifacts, metal ones, paper, fabric. There was so much there. People think of the obvious sources for musical notes, a piano, trumpet, the human singing voice. But in reality, those are just frequencies, polished and refined directly at the source. What most people don't realize is that every sound is a frequency. In the actual museum space, there is a Nazi rail car that was used to transport prisoners to the various camps. And so here's an example of some of those sounds. And so I took one of those and ended up creating this bass instrument that you hear in the second movement. What made it meaningful was that these weren't just artifacts. Many of the pieces had stories behind them. I asked Emily if the museum had any documents or letters with special significance. She shared one, a letter written by a woman named Rennie Valhaus. It's the last letter she would ever write, a farewell to her family. She's just learned that she and her son Alfred are about to be sent to Auschwitz, soon after they were both killed there. I use this letter as part of the narrative of my piece. It's the transition from the first to second movements. Rennie was portrayed by Marion Zimmel, one of our German teachers here at Lab. Because the letter was typed, the coincidence that a typewriter was one of the museum's artifacts was fate, I think. The typing you hear in the piece is from this typewriter.
It's been an amazing experience being a part of this project. Just the idea that someone would take artifacts from the Holocaust and be able to turn that into sound and recreate an experience of the different stages of the Holocaust was amazing to me. We went through and we did a line-by-line analysis, and then finally we broke it down into something that sounded like what a speaker of English would say in that exact context.
So they came as to gestern nästan väg. Maskinen went by and then förställd var ett häng.
Another meaningful discovery was learning about a man named Jerry Glass. Jerry was a Chicagoan born to Yiddish-speaking Jewish parents. At 17, he joined the U.S. Army and served under General Patton. Jerry's unit was one of the many that landed at Omaha Beach as part of the Normandy invasion of World War II. Several days later, he was part of the liberation of the Mauthausen concentration camp. He acted as a translator for the Jewish prisoners who only spoke Yiddish. The museum has several of Jerry's belongings. The marching army you hear in the piece were samples taken from Jerry's army boot. There's also his army jacket. I used the sound of the zipper pull to create one of the main melodic synth instruments you hear in the third movement. and his uniform pants. I created another synth lead from the sound of the fabric rubbing against itself. The poem I Am a Jew is the resolve and fortitude, the resilience of the Jewish people.
A poem like this, coming from someone who lived through that experience and then died from it, really hammers home and sort of opens up to us a way of understanding what that was like and why we can't let it happen again.
As a Jew, I'm able to have the honor and the task of conveying the feelings and the emotions of real people who went through these very harrowing experiences. And I get to feel some of what they feel, and I get to show the world and lab how these people might have felt going into concentration camps and leaving their families behind, and the pride that they have from their heritage and their background.
I think it's been very powerful, especially the poem that Eva wrote.
No, no, my God, we want to live, not watch our numbers melt away. We want to have a better world. We want to work. We must not die.
2, 2, 3, 4.
I am a Jew.
I am a Jew.
That's
And
everybody.
will be.
That's everybody. Letter N, full ensemble. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Letter N is in Nancy?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. This method of music creating has given the students in the ensemble a deeper connection to everything. They've been so focused in rehearsal. The execution of all the parts feels at times like a three-ring circus. They have to play melodies, chords, improvise, trigger audio samples, launch loops. These kids are amazing. Without them, this piece doesn't live.
I always knew the Holocaust was a terrible, terrible thing, but especially in reading some of the very minute details in the poetry from the people that are actually experiencing it, I saw the more individual experience of the Holocaust. It wasn't just numbers, but these were people, and you get to hear their stories. From the letters to the poems, I saw a different side of the Holocaust I'd never seen before.
When you're in the electronic music ensemble, I feel like there's a lot more creativity. Maybe it's because we're more of a club rather than a class, but I feel like we have more movement and we have more say in what we're doing.
Throughout this entire creative process, I kept thinking, it's really important to get this right, to do it justice. I can't do it justice. No one can. So this piece is really just me trying to say to history, I hear you. I'm listening. I want to respond to you, and this is the best way I know how.
This is something my family went through, and this is something that many other families went through, and so many different groups of people who have been discriminated against have gone through. And I think that this experience gave me the outlet to express how close I am to my heritage, and that is something I would never have had the chance to do otherwise.
I am a Jew and will be a Jew forever, ever.